inside the vehicle at all times. We're going to go through a lot of rough brush. There will be bushes near some pretty long thorns. That being said, though, we're going to head on in. Our first stop here is Little Eternal Forest. Since it is a pretty crowded ecosystem, the animals can be fairly well hidden at times, but if you notice off to your right, okapis here in the distance. See if we can get a profile view of them here. Okapi do have distinct horizontal stripes on their legs to mimic the streaming of light through a tree canopy, so once they are traveling in a more densely populated area of plant life, they can be very hard to find. They're also super reclusive and solitary by nature. Very rare to even see a pair of them together, so they were thought to be a myth for the longest time. Western civilization really had no documentation of them until about 1901. That's actually a female we're seeing there. The males will have false horns on top of their head called ossicones that are going to be slightly more prominent than what the females will develop. Let's see. Carrying on over towards this watering hole. It is pretty reliable, never typically runs dry. I do want to point out a really beautiful bird just up the hill here on our right if you catch a glimpse of it. Just a little reminder to keep our face coverings on as we're traveling on through. Thank you so much. The saddle-billed stork, named after that saddle-shaped shield on top of their bill. They do have a wingspan of around 9 feet wide, about the width of the canopy above our head on this truck. Looks like there might be a bit of activity just up ahead of us here. A couple different antelope, but also coming up way ahead of us to the left, you might see a black rhinoceros in the distance near a mud wall. Black rhinos are about a 3,000-pound animal. They're considered crepuscular, so the peak of their activity normally at dusk and dawn, the cooler parts of the day.
Rhino.
That's usually when they're easiest to see. They're rather solitary and pretty territorial. We're going to see some copper-colored antelope here as well on our left, which are bongos, oftentimes called the ghost of the forest since their stripes easily break up their silhouette. Those horns they have also lean back in spirals so they can travel through the dense vegetation here without having to slow down. There's another type of antelope with them that's more sandy in color, which is a greater kudu. Second tallest antelope on the reserve, they get about 5 feet tall at the shoulder. It's actually a female. Only the males of their species grow horns that are typically about 6 feet long. Alright, we'll carry on a little bit further through the forest now. Eventually arrive at a river called Safi River. It's a pretty slow-moving waterway, has some shallow areas to it as well that are fairly popular for certain types of animals. We'll head on over to one of those more shallow areas, see what we can find. Notice on the island coming up on our left-hand side, several big gray and white birds, which are pigback pelicans. Looks like a few of them are resting on nests currently. So the skin of their back will turn pink during mating season. They then mate for life. They're going to build a nest together, take care of their eggs together. Any hatchlings they may have. They do communicate by clapping their bills together pretty often. If you notice any of them that are resting on nests are rapidly moving their wings, that is to generate a bit more heat. They may have some eggs underneath them there that they may be incubating. A group of them can be called, yeah, the hippo right next to them. Looks like there might be a couple in the water here. Notice how the hippo was sort of walking and trotting along the bottom of the river. That is kind of why they're called the hippopotamus. The name translated to English means the river horse. Not that they're actually related to the horse though. Their closest living relatives are animals like the porpoise, the whale, and the pig. Yes, hippos are very territorial. They'll protect their home as much as they possibly need to, so you certainly want to admire them from afar. Give them a respectful distance. Typically, they can outrun humans on land running about 35 miles per hour. Yeah, the porpoise, whale, and pig. So it looks like they might have a small group here, and a group of hippos will be called a gloat. See if you get another view of them here or not. While fully submerged, they can hold their breath up to 8 minutes, although if you saw the structure of their heads, their ears, eyes, nostrils right on top of their heads, so they don't have to fully submerge to stay relaxed in the water here. have the ability to kind of fold their ears, prevent water from getting in their ear canal. We'll see if anyone else is maybe perhaps a little further down the river here too. Looks like another paintback pelican will be hanging out. I will say for those pelicans, their groups or pods are usually pretty large, ranging around 20 to 1,000 of them at a time. Down below to our left, it looks like there are several Nile crocodiles here. They do get about 16 feet long, weigh around 500 pounds, so they are considered the largest of the crocodilian species. A group on shore like this will be called a bask, since they're normally basking in the sun. A group in the water would be called a float, since they be floating around together. You might notice someone on shore there has their mouth open. They are ectothermic animals. They rely on the surrounding environment to control their body temperature. So by opening their mouths, that can help them stay a little bit cooler if they get too warm on shore. Pretty awesome animals. While resting in the water, they can actually hold their breath up to 2 hours when they lie dormant. Ahead of us. We're going to head on out of the forest, make our way towards a savanna. There'll be a lot of different plants and animals out this way. A lot of them you'll probably recognize. Pretty interesting tree coming up on our right. You've probably seen a few of them already today. But it is a baobab tree, oftentimes called the upside down tree, since those branches do look pretty similar to roots. They remain leafless around 9 months out of the year to help retain water in that large trunk. Super handy on a savanna since ecosystems like this go through a lot of drought. Animals will also be able to survive off of these trees if they need to, tapping into those trunks to get any water they need, which is why it goes by the nickname Tree of Life as well. Nickname you might have heard of before. Let's see if we can approach this really pretty overlook. So with a savanna, as you can tell, way more open and flat compared to a forest. Definitely fewer places to hide. So the animals here rely a bit more on their ability to, say, escape predators more so than hide from them like they could in the forest. Usually some pretty good examples of agility and mobility out this way for both prey and predator alike. And this is the natural highway of Africa. So typically, interspecies herds, so herds consisting of several different types of hoofed animals, will be traveling together here from point A to point B to point C throughout the day. So where it's quiet in one region, which it seems like it's a little quiet here currently, it's usually hustling and bustling in the next. So if you don't see any activity currently, certainly don't be discouraged. This means the animals are going to be a little bit further into the savanna most likely. Certainly signs of all the animals that may be living out this way though, especially with the shorter grasses here off to the right. Not caused by a human coming out here and mowing, but all the shorter hoofed animals that live here consistently grazing along the ground, keeping it nice and short. They do refertilize that ground as they're traveling too. You can even see a few dung droppings here and there. That's going to help refertilize the ground, so when they come back at a later time and date, there will be new, fresh, nutritious grass for them to eat. If you notice the trees off to our right too, how they're all very evenly trimmed on the underside. It's not because they grow that way. That's caused by giraffes majority of the time. They're really the tree trimmers of the savanna here, very consistently eating off the underside of trees since they're a browsing species. They have to look for food and eat food around 20 hours a day. So hopefully that means we're going to see a few around here as well. We'll visit a little rock formation coming up ahead of us here that casts some pretty nice sheltering shade throughout the day. Off to our left. And it does look like there are some animals here, so we're going to see a pack of African painted dogs. So they're called painted dogs because of their beautiful coat pattern. Sometimes you can hear them referred to as African wild dogs as well. So dog is in their name. They are part of the canid family. However, they're a bit more closely related to the fox. So they do have 4 toes instead of 5 toes like a dog would. Their vocalization is a bit more similar to a fox with a squeaking, chittering voice. They're very adorable and the most successful pack hunter in Africa. So they're more successful at hunting than lions, cheetahs, or hyenas since their endurance helps to wear out their prey. Looks like there are some sable antelope coming up on our left. They'll have those beautiful horns built for self-defense. They can knock predators right off their back when they need to. They're actually one of the few antelopes that you'll find out here that will stand their ground against predators instead of trying to escape them. Do pretty well for themselves that way. They actually will bow down in front of predators or any threats to expose their horns as a threat to them as well. So we do like to consider them the official emblem of Harambe Wildlife Reserve, kind of the protectors of the reserve here. So you'll see signage around the village once you head back to Harambe of sable antelope on several different documentations for the reserve here. We can see some pretty big towers and mounds of dirt here as well. Those are termite mounds. They're made of dung, dirt, secretions from termites. They will bake in the hot savanna sun until they're practically as hard as concrete. So they're excellent scratching posts for a lot of animals that live here, especially the larger ones like giraffes or elephants. Once they wear down over time, for example, the one off to our right has had a lot of weathering. They're a pretty nice perch for animals to get on top of to survey above the tall grasses that grow. They're very well ventilated too, so usually termite mounds are a bit cooler than the surrounding ground. Sometimes you'll see animals with very thick coats, especially predators like the lion, rest on top of them, especially if they're in a more shady area. So it looks like there is an interspecies herd not too far away from us here. Notice near the observation platform there in the distance. See, it looks like several wildebeest, which usually their herds are pretty large, ranging around 20 to 1,000 of them at a time. Also some zebras with them, and it seems some springbok. Yeah, it looks like the zebras we're going to see there are Hartman's mountain zebras. From a distance, you'll be able to tell the difference between them and other subspecies of zebra because of their stripes. So their stripes do stop at their belly, along with having thicker stripes on their back legs compared to the rest of their body. I will say there is another subspecies of zebra you can sometimes find here in Africa at Gorilla Falls Exploration Trail, the Grevy's zebras. Their stripes also stop at their belly, but their stripes are a lot thinner too. They're also more territorial. They love to hang out just within their own group, while Hartman's mountain zebras here love socializing with other animals like the wildebeest here. So it looks like the reason we could see several shorter hoofed animals here is because there will be quite a few giraffes ahead of us too. Being the tallest land mammals in the world, giraffes are normally the first to see one of the predators that could be out here. They're also so active that they can keep an eye out a bit more too. I do want to point out with the zebras and wildebeest here to the right are some small antelope, which are springbok. They're about 3 feet tall. But they can jump 6 feet into the air from a standing position and 13 feet forward. When they jump, it's a arcing motion they use. It's called pronking. It helps scare predators away. The springbok can also outrun all the animals we see here right now, running about 50 miles per hour. So definitely to their advantage. Those zebras, pretty quick themselves. They can run about 45 miles per hour. They also have a hind kick that's strong enough to break bone. Wildebeest typically know the warning calls of animals here on the savanna. They're not the first to see a predator, they are the first to hear about them. Notice some Ankoli cattle off to our right in the palm trees there too. Notice their horns before anything else. They're the only domesticated animal you'll find here, raised and taken care of by humans. First domesticated by the Watusi tribe, so they're also called Watusi cattle. It's a very common name for them. Those horns are about 6 feet long for males and females. Now we'll get a very nice view of the giraffes here off to our left. So if you caught a glimpse of their tongues here as they're browsing around. Giraffe's tongue is prehensile. It's used like a hand, wrapping around plant life pretty easily that way. It's about 18 inches long. So if you were a giraffe, your tongue would most likely be the length from your elbow to your wrist, anyone of any age. These are specifically Maasai giraffes. So Maasai giraffes have very jagged, irregular looking patches. They're found in eastern parts of Africa. That's going to be a little different compared to the ones depicted on the safari guide. Those are reticulated giraffes. Reticulated giraffes do have a more net-like appearance to their coat. Solid lines, typically solid patches. Alright, let's hurry on over to Rainbow Country now. there's a pair through the tall grass on our right. So keep an eye out for them. Definitely the largest animal farm ranch in the entire world. They get about 13,000 pounds. I do want to point out down below to our left are some monkeys. Mandrills. Largest monkeys in Africa. They can get up to 100 pounds. Beautiful colorations of red and blue on their face and bottom. The most dominant male has really vibrant colors. Makes them the most colorful monkeys in the world. So they are terrestrial. They do travel along the ground pretty often like that, but they're also arboreal. Sometimes you will see them traveling among the trees. Those two elephants off to the right, I'm hoping that's an indication maybe they're part of a larger herd. We are going to travel a little bit further through elephant country, see if we can find a few more. They might be hanging out pretty close to this watering hole, but there's a second one up ahead of us here too. Elephants, once full grown, do have to drink around 42 gallons of water per day. So usually watering holes are their destinations in mind while traveling. And just beyond the service bridge here will be some red clay deposits that are pretty popular for a lot of herbivores, especially the elephants, because they like to dig up this red clay so they can eat it. Give them a lot of nutrients they need, most specifically high concentrations of iron that are really important for their diet. So you'll certainly see signs of that off to our left and right. A lot of tusk marks and footprints. We'll see if we find anyone here. Certainly signs of them along with the tusk marks. A lot of turned up earth, especially to our left, wider gaps in the thicket. Elephants clear a lot of brush as they travel, which in the moment that could look destructive, but over time that helps promote a lot of grass growth, which is really important for a variety of the animals we've seen so far. And they tend to knock over sick plant life too. That's going to make way for a lot of healthier, stronger plants to thrive. So elephants are really essential for any ecosystem they're living in. Be it a savanna like this, any type of grasslands ecosystem like the Serengeti, or a forest, for example, like the Congo. Looks like there could be a few a little bit further into the reserve. They might be a bit further than we normally travel. But nonetheless, we'll try to catch a glimpse of them here. Off to our right, we might get a closer glimpse of a few wildebeest here too. Now it may look like the wildebeest have stripes on their side. It is an optical illusion. It's the same gray hair, it's just laying in different directions. But luckily, those stripes can help in various ways, just like they do for zebras. They can give the optical illusion, if they clump close together, of being one big animal, which can help deter predators from coming near them since they can't differentiate between the sizes at that point. And predators don't really want to hunt animals much larger than themselves. It's not really in their nature to do so. The stripes can also help keep external parasites, like flies, from landing on them, since it gives the optical illusion of uneven ground. That's one of the tallest of the flamingos. They get up to 6 feet tall. Notice there are several here that are gray, especially on the island. Those are going to be baby flamingos. They won't start developing any pink until they're about 1 to 2 years old. They have to eat enough brine shrimp first. Brine shrimp have a protein in them called beta-carotene and helps them present that coloration. They are also the lightest pink of the flamingos. They usually do present more of a pastel color to them. Their group of them can be called several things. You can call them a flock, a stand, or a flamboyant. And if they're a subspecies of flamingo that is migratory, they can also be called a colony. But greater flamingos are not migratory. They stick to one region their whole life. All right. Carrying on over to a mud wallow here that's coming up on our left. Oftentimes this mud wallow will attract the white rhino. So I'm hoping we see one or two out this way today. They frequently roll around in that mud to stay cool, but it's also an excellent sunscreen and bug repellent. So we'll keep an eye out for them as we're wandering around. We're also approaching big cat country. With fewer elephants out this way, we usually see a few large cats. A lot of can run 0 to 60 within 3 seconds. They're a sprinter, not a marathon runner, so it's about 1 to 200 yards they can run those speeds. Very nice to have spots like they do because they are a daytime hunter. It's going to help them blend in broad daylight at times. They even have black tear tracks to run down their face to help prevent sun glare. See, it looks like 1 or 2 there. It looks like there are 2 more ahead of us here off to the left as well that are going to be a bit more visible. Now, other attributes to help them run. Their tails will definitely help them keep their balance and turn directions at top speeds. Sometimes even turn directions in midair. And their claws are non-retractable. So unlike maybe a house cat you have at home or other big cats, cheetah's claws are always out so they can have traction along the ground at a moment's notice. Alright, we're going to carry on over to the Kobe Rocks. Fun place to find the occasional lion, and it does look like someone's here today. These rocks are a pretty nice vantage point just to survey the land at times. We'll see a male resting here. Definitely nocturnal, so they're going to be way more active at night. During the day, they rest around 16 to 20 hours. Not always sleeping during that time, but definitely conserving as much energy as possible. That way, if they can slow down their metabolism enough, they don't have to hunt nearly as often. They're very good hunters. They do prefer to hunt at night for various reasons. It's usually a bit cooler. Their eyesight will also be 6 times more powerful than a human's once it's dark out. Off to our right, there will be a pair of white rhinos here in the distance. Looks like a little antelope too, which is a bok-bok, distant relative of the wildebeest. Those white rhinos, normally about 5,000 pounds. Skin's about 2 inches thick for most rhinos. And they can charge around 35 miles per hour to protect themselves. Let's view the lion here before we head on forward. Very strong animals overall. They can leap up to 20 feet into the air, which is higher than the average giraffe, and run about 45 miles per hour. Alright, let's visit some burrows up ahead and see if anyone is nearby. And it does look like we might see a few warthogs here on our left. Now, warthogs are the largest burrowing mammals in Africa. They get about 300 pounds in weight. They'll build these tunnels next to them with their snouts, their hooves. They load it back up into them, face outwards, that expose those tusks a bit more, and it's easier to protect themselves in their home. A group of them will be called a sounder. Keep an eye off to the left. Down below here, resting in some nice loose soil, will be a few ostrich. These are females. They'll have gray feathers, while males have black and white feathers. Pretty big. They get about 7 to 9 feet tall when standing. So they do have wings, but they can't easily fly. They're going to use those wings to keep their balance while running around 35 miles per hour. Definitely the fastest animal on 2 legs. Very good view of the white rhino here on the right. Named after the Afrikaans word vite. Vite means wide because they have such a wide flat mouth that's going to help them graze along the ground. So each rhino, subspecies found here in Africa, they're definitely built for the ecosystems they live in. The reason we can see even a pair of them together here is because they are specifically southern white rhinos. There are around 20,000 of them left in the world, which is an okay number for a subspecies of rhino. I will say they encompass the majority number of all rhinos left in the world. And it's still decreasing, unfortunately. So they are considered threatened. We definitely need to keep a close eye on them, try to protect them as much as possible. Unfortunately, all rhinos nowadays are still facing a lot of threats of poaching and habitat loss on a day-to-day basis in the wild. Poaching mostly for their horns that are made of keratin, same material your fingernails and hair are made up of. Some people believe keratin from a rhino will have an extra medicinal property to